Hi guys, we're going to do a CER review today. So I want you to take a quick second and I want you to think, which hamburger would you rather eat? I know it sounds like a weird question when we're talking about CER paragraphs, but think about it. Do you want a plain burger with nothing on it? It's burnt, it's dry, it's kind of gross. Or do you want something that has a little bit more layer to it, where you've got some of your favorite toppings and it's juicy? Okay, I would prefer the one that's a little bit more juicy. It's a little more palatable. We can eat it a little better. And that's just kind of like creating a solid paragraph. Think about it like building a hamburger. The more you have in it, the better it's going to be. So we have 5 steps to creating a solid paragraph when we do a CER paragraph. The first step is to determine what the prompt or question is asking. Then you're going to answer it with a claim, cite with evidence from the text, explain your reasoning, and then you're going to put it all together with details and layers and transitions, and that's going to build up your hamburger. So our first step is determining what the prompt or question is asking. So what is it actually asking you? Is it asking you to do something? What is your stance or your ideas about the question? Think of this like the plate. It's the foundation of where you put your hamburger. Okay, so here's our example prompt. After reading the article, does playing video games contribute to youth violence? Defend your answer. So think for a minute, what is this prompt asking you to do? And then I want you to annotate the prompt by circling some key words. So here's some examples. I highlighted the words contribute, violence, and defend, and I defined those things, okay? So to contribute means to help or cause, bring about, and we're talking about violence. And then where it says defend your answer, that means to prove it. So in this prompt, it's asking, does video games cause violence? Does it help bring about violence? And then it's asking you to defend or prove your answer. Okay, our next step is to answer the question with a claim. That's like the top part of the burger, okay, the bun. And it's a statement that's justified by evidence, and it's the central idea of a paragraph or a thesis in essays. And it needs to be very specific, and it has to say yes or no. Okay, so the claim I have here is video games contribute to youth violence. I'm saying yes, video games will cause violence in children. Okay. Our next step is to support that claim with evidence. And that evidence can be fact, reasons, examples, or details. So if you remember the acronym FRED, okay, fact, reason, example, or details, those are 4 different types of evidence that you can find. The evidence does need to be embedded, followed by a quotation or a citation, excuse me. And so my example here is Video Games and Violence by Elizabeth Eisenstein states 85% of kids that play violent video games are more aggressive. And that does seem to prove the fact that violent video games will cause violence in youth. The next piece is probably the one that's a little bit more difficult, but it's the most important, I feel like. Whereas in our previous slide, the evidence was more of our meat and the actual burger. The reasoning is like the bottom bun. So imagine that you're eating a hamburger, but you have no bottom bun, or it gets real soggy and nasty and it starts falling apart. If you don't have solid reasoning, that's what happens to the bottom bun, and it kind of makes your whole hamburger fall apart. So your reasoning is really important. It's not repeating the evidence, but it's explaining how or why the evidence proves the claim. And it needs to be an inference, and it has to be at least 3 sentences, sometimes more. And it's basically explaining why the evidence proves the claim. And so here's my reasoning. This data demonstrates that kids who play violent video games can be more hostile towards their peers. This can include bullying, verbal abuse, and even mental abuse or physical abuse. Such abuse can have detrimental effects on children, including mental illness. So that's giving me the why violence in video games is not a good thing. Okay, and then the last piece is to put it all together. You're going to add transitions, details, and you're going to have probably multiple CERs going on, depending on what your teacher wants. So right now we're back at the plain burger. We've got our bun and meat, claim, evidence, reasoning. But if we go on and we try to add those layers, we want to add things like our transitions to begin with. Or for example, we may even want to add another sentence of reasoning